gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for February 27th, 2023. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, it's Pokemon Day, so get your asses up and put them to bed for Pokemon sleep. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Tom Caswell. Tom, how are you doing?
I'm doing good now that Pokemon Sleep is back in the world. Everything is right.
Everything's looking right,
and there's
finally.
no problems anymore, finally.
Yeah.
Because Pokemon Sleep is a product that exists.
Because I get to sleep with my Snorlax and my Pikachus. That was all part of the
and
Pokemon,
my Pokemon Go.
Today. Yes.
And my Pokemon Go Plus Plus.
You can walk all day with your Pokemon Go Plus Plus, and then you can sleep all night with your Pokemon in bed. It's 24 hours a day Pokemon. I'm very excited. But yeah, how have you been? Like, how are things going? You were on a few weeks ago. I'm glad to have you back. How have things gone since then?
Doing good. Very excited. We have some exciting things on the GameSpot video site happening over the next couple of months. So keep an eye out on the YouTube for that. I am also doing some fun stuff over at GameSpot TikTok as well. I'm actually in the middle of building the Rivendell Lego set.
Ooh.
And going to be doing some cool video coverage on our TikTok for that. So that's how I'm spending my week this week, Jeff. So I'm doing pretty good.
That sounds like a good way to do things. I'm excited for you.
I finally have a Can I do a quick rant about ordering from PlayStation super quick?
Yeah, please. I want to hear it. Yeah.
I, for the longest time, was like, I'm not getting a PSVR 2. I'm just going to be smart about this decision. I caved at the last minute. The biggest thing preventing me from doing it is I just wanted to order it from Amazon, or I wanted to go to Target or GameStop and pick one up. But I finally ordered one directly from PlayStation. I ordered the charging unit for the controllers as well. And my credit card flagged the purchase because it was like, this is a new vendor. You've never ordered from them before. It's $600 or whatever. And I was like, ugh. I knew that this would be a pain. So I said to my credit card provider, it's fine. I wanted to do that. They were like, go ahead, try and make the order again. I tried to make the order again through PlayStation. Your limit on how many PSVR 2s you can buy has been hit, despite them having canceled the order. So I am now the proud owner of a PlayStation Sense controller charging station that's sitting on my TV stand.
And how many PSVR 2s do you own?
I own 0 PSVR 2s at the moment. They were able to last minute remove that on Friday. But I'll tell you this, the process for contacting PlayStation about this, trying to get in touch with someone to start this process, literally took me 3 days. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, I mean, they removed it. Do you think that you would be able to buy one now again, or have you done so? Are you planning to do so?
Yeah, I ordered. That's the thing is I was like, I still want the thing.
Yeah.
It's my birthday in a couple of weeks. It's a good excuse. It's a good excuse.
This wasn't enough to turn you off the idea completely. You're like, no, I still need the thing. Okay, that's
yeah.
Fair.
I'd already made virtual reality multiplayer commitments to people when the few friends that were picking it up, I had already told, I'm getting it. We can play that bow and arrow soccer game together. And I'm very excited to finally play Moss 2 because I love Moss 1, which I played on MetaQuest, but the second one did not come for the first generation of that headset. So I was like, that's just one of the many reasons to pick this thing up. So
I'm waiting for Astro. If Astro happens, I'll be right there.
Yes.
I'll be right there.
Oh my God.
That's that'll be what gets me in.
You got to imagine that they're making a sequel to that, and
I hope so.
If they are, yeah, day one for me, easily.
All right. Well, before we get into this mess, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you were watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with everything announced at February's Pokemon Presents. This comes from Maddie Myers at Polygon. Today is February 27th, also known as Pokemon Day 2023, and that means the Pokemon Company put together a slew of announcements about upcoming Pokemon games and updates to existing titles. In a 20-minute Pokemon Presents live stream, fans heard news about updates for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, a long-awaited news blast about Pokemon Sleep, and an upcoming Netflix series called Pokemon Concierge. Let's start here right at the top. We'll just go through these, Tom. Pokemon World Championships. First time they're happening in Japan. They confirmed they're going to do that again August 11th through August 13th. Let's see what's at the Pacifico Yokohama. So people can have fun with that. The Pokemon Trading Card Game Classic. This actually looks really cool. It is a re-release of the original lineup of cards in what looks like collector's quality or high quality. And they basically said it's meant to last a lifetime. This is supposed to be like a complete collection, so you can just play that original rule set. That original rule set having been sort of outdated for a very long time now. This looks really neat, right?
I don't remember there being there looks like these like thimble things.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, were these an element of the game originally?
No idea.
Granted, the time I was into Pokemon cards was when I was a kid, and it was all about trading. Like, I did not know how to play the game.
Oh, incredible.
But I gotta say, this looked slick. I am such a sucker for collector elements like this, and I gotta say, I mean, we're gonna get into the rest of the Pokemon Presents. I actually think this was the most exciting announcement, mainly because it was like a surprise. Everything else here was kind of like, well, duh. Yeah, but I don't know. I got to look more into it. Obviously, they haven't released a ton of information, but depending on what's in it and depending on the price, obviously, like, I might pick it up because I mean, my partner and I play like board games and things all the time, and I'm sure that would happily slide into the rotation. So yeah, I like the look of this. I definitely want to learn more. Yeah,
I thought it was exciting. It looked really cool. That price is going to be the big sticking point, because I bet it's going to be a sticky point. I bet it's going to be expensive. But it is for boomer Pokemon fans, right? It's for the old ones that probably do have a little bit more money laying around. Yes, so they're gonna hit them where it hurts, which is the wallet. Pokemon Concierge. This is Netflix and the Pokemon Company announcing Pokemon Concierge, a new original series to be released on the streaming service using stop motion animation. This series will expand on the Pokemon universe. The show takes place at a Pokemon resort. A very brief trailer depicted a Psyduck walking slowly along a beach. It looks pretty cool to me. What do you think about them expanding what kind of things get turned into TV shows for Pokemon?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, it's a double-edged sword for me, because the idea of Pokemon stop motion and the very few frames that we saw of that looked incredible. The concept of it being about a concierge at a resort for Pokemon, I'm a little like, it could go either way for me. It doesn't necessarily speak to what I would want from a Pokemon series. That being said, I, always I'm fascinated when companies take really interesting, and Pokemon, we're going to talk about Pokemon Sleep, right? Like, it's an interesting concept. I'm sure I will check out an episode, maybe.
Yeah, it makes me think of like this is like Pokemon's The White Lotus, and old ladies would come in here looking to reclaim their mojo. I've never seen an episode of The White Lotus. I just assume that's what it's about. So we got Mento in the Giant Bomb chat on the site. Oh yeah, it doesn't have Jennifer Tentacoolage. Oh my God, Mento,
which is really good.
Incredible work.
Really good.
Holy moly.
Please keep dropping all the White Lotus Pokemon Concierge puns in the chat. We will read out every single one. I don't even watch White Lotus, and that was funny.
Yes, that's really, really good work, Mento. We have Pokemon Unite update. The legendary Pokemon, the Zacian, is joining Pokemon Unite. Fans may recall that this dog is a Pokemon, this Pokemon is a dog with a sword in its mouth, which probably seems very effective in that 5 versus 5 MOBA game. You can also use the code Pokemon Day to unlock it right now. So if you're still in that Pokemon Unite life, there you go. Jan, stop it. Stop it, Jan. Don't do it. Pokemon Cafe Remix is adding Sprigatito, Quaxley, and Fuecoco. The game is also celebrating Pokemon Day by giving away an in-game outfit for Chef Green Ninja. So yeah, all right. And then finally, here it goes. Tom, I know you've been so excited for this for so long.
I can
Pokemon
finally go
Sleep.
to bed.
Yes,
I've
finally
been
you
waiting
can go to
4 years
bed.
to go to bed.
Let's fucking go. Pokemon Sleep, the long-awaited Pokemon Sleep, got a full-length trailer. A little like an alarm clock crossed with Pokemon Go. It's a mobile game that rewards you for getting a good night's sleep. The app measures, records, and analyzes your sleep. Pokemon who tend to sleep in the same way that you do will show up in your game. I don't know what that means. The game thereby encourages you to research the sleep styles of various Pokemon. So, what do you think Pikachu's sleep style is?
I don't know. Based on the animatronic that they had in the Pokemon Presents, I don't know if it was CG or an animatronic.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
It doesn't go to sleep. It's always awake, and he's always watching you. Yeah, Pokemon Sleep, man. I, in all seriousness, have absolutely no intention of engaging with this Pokemon product. I gave Pokemon Go multiple hearty tries. And I have just said to myself, I am never again going to jump into that. And so this feels like the other side of the coin for it, right? They're trying to market it as you play Pokemon Go when you're awake, and you play Pokemon Sleep when you're asleep.
Like, there's hours in the day where people aren't playing Pokemon stuff. What can we do about this? Pokemon Sleep. There we go.
Yeah. So if I'm not doing the day version of this, it's like Pokemon Day Night, right? Like It's like the Pokemon Day, Pokemon Night. If I'm not doing the day, if I didn't pick up the Pokemon Day release, I'm not picking up Pokemon Night.
Yeah.
Pokemon Sleep.
I think my sleep style is going to be just staring at the ceiling with Mr. Mime. Just staring. Just never falling asleep ever again. Yep. That's what I want.
I mean, that's pretty much how it goes.
All right, let's keep going here. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet updates. New Paradox Pokemon are coming to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Walking Wake, which is a shiny bull-like Pokemon, will appear in Scarlet. A Pokemon named Iron Leaves, which looks like a deer, will be in Pokemon Violet. Later today, an update will roll out for Pokemon Go players that allows them to connect their game to Scarlet and Violet. The Pokemon Company also announced that Pokemon Home support for Scarlet and Violet is coming out in early 2023. So we are rapidly exiting early 2023, so I bet that means the next week or so. But yeah, cool updates. Scarlet and Violet obviously needs more updates than this, but also it's selling very well. So what does it really need? And I guess more content for the millions of people who bought the game is probably going to serve them pretty well. But yeah, it really comes down to the DLC, which they also announced. This was their final announcement. The Hidden Treasure of Area Zero will come in 2 parts. Part 1 of the DLC is called The Teal Mask, and it will be released in fall 2023. Part 2 called The Indigo Mask will come out in winter 2023. I don't think they mean December 21st. They're probably thinking December, maybe even November for that. In part 1, players will visit the land of Kitakami as part of a school trip. In the second part of the DLC, players will be exchange students at Blueberry Academy. Legendary Pokemon called Orgapon and Terrapagos will be introduced in this DLC. The Hidden Treasure of Area Zero will be available to pre-order in the Nintendo eShop later today. So yeah, this is exactly what we were expecting for this game, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. The two raid Pokemon that you announced, they actually, if you play the game, and I actually only know this because I was making videos for GameSpot, editing videos for GameSpot for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I didn't actually see this in the game myself because I didn't play much of them, but they were actually teased, these two Pokemon, as like in the books that you find in the library of the school. So it was cool to see them like bring that into it. I'm actually a little bummed because I do have Violet, but I want the Suicune, the one with the tentacles, the dinosaur looking thing. I thought that was cool. Yeah, and obviously like the DLC expansion, we obviously didn't get a ton of details there on what those are going to be like, but I will say that when it came to Sword and Shield, I thought the DLC's expansions were actually the best part of the content there. I know a lot of people actually praise Scarlet and Violet's story, which was not something that you can do with Sword and Shield, which I think is one of the weakest stories in the entire series. So the DLC really helps there because it was like an interesting like side story. It was also like all of the DLC was the wild area, which is where the kind of open world aspect of Sword and Shield came into play. And yeah, it'll be interesting because Scarlet and Violet is a more true open world. And so I'm curious as to, they said that these DLCs are taking outside of Paldea. Like, they're not like expanding or revisiting Paldea. It's going to be like, oh, another island that you visit. So I'm really curious as to what that looks like. Sword and Scarlet and Violet for me is like, I picked it up. I was so excited, but I really, the problems with the game came to a point where it was ruining the experience. And I really did feel like I'm going to wait until these games are until things that are 6 feet away from me are not animating at 12 frames a second. Yep. Like, it's hard to kind of get invested. You know, we've finally been waiting for an open world Pokemon game like this, and it's so hard to engage with that world when it doesn't feel like alive at all. Yeah. So I'm gonna maybe wait to jump back in when these DLCs come out. Hopefully they have ironed out a lot of those issues. I know they've had some updates. Seems that those updates have been pretty rudimentary, I'll say. I don't think that they've been the
Alistair
steps that people have been
Chad
wanting.
Is saying that the update is out for today, and it's already like the people are already saying no performance improvements, not really. And that's not too surprising. I think very few people were expecting major improvements to the performance, and like the thing you were saying, like the animating at 12 frames per second, half frame rate when they're very close still. That's something they don't view as something that needs to be fixed, right? That's just part of the way the game works. To them, that's not a bug. It's just part of the way the graphics are intended to work. And so this game's going to keep being this game. My question is, we are getting this DLC as the big Pokemon thing this holiday, almost certainly. They didn't announce a Let's Go. They didn't announce some other sort of remaster for this holiday. So the DLC can maybe take them into next year, and they could spend a little bit more time on whatever's next. Is this part of the start of them maybe elongating their cycle of how they put out games and taking a little bit longer on stuff going forward so that they could make a better game the next time around?
I mean, I would have said that was what they were doing after Sword and Shield dropped, when they had their DLC and they were like, this is the Pokemon content for the year. I am actually kind of shocked we did not get a Let's Go announcement today, as Giovanni Colantonio, who is the gaming editor at Digital Trends, he's a good friend of mine, he pointed out on Twitter, he was like, it's the 5-year anniversary of Let's Go, which is an absolutely wild thing to think about. And I really like those games. And I think that it would be a real shame if they didn't continue them. And you got to think like, well, it's like they've got multiple kind of mainline brands now. It isn't just like the new generations. We've got the Legend series. You got to imagine you're going to be doing more than that. Spoiler alert, I liked Arceus more than I did Scarlet and Violet.
Me too.
And so it's curious. It seems to be a thing of like, they're not elongating the process at all, because it was 3 years between Gen 8 and Gen 9.
Yep.
And they're adding additional projects on top of that. So I'm going to be honest, I really don't think Nintendo or the Pokemon Company has learned its lesson coming out of all of the negativity around Scarlet and Violet. I don't think we are going to have a big jump between. Part of me really wants them to be like, all right, it's Gen X, like it's Gen 10. We really got to nail this game. I think we're just going to get a slightly more improved Pokemon with just as many issues next generation, and I think we will see it in the next couple of years. I don't think they're going to wait long to I think it would be 2025, I guess, something like that. I think that is when we see that game.
I think you're right. I think that this is an opportunity to elongate it. I don't think they're going to take that opportunity. I think it's too, as Marino says, until one bombs in sales. And let's check Scarlet and Violet, already at 20 million copies sold. What the hell? That is so crazy that a game can come out and do that. Any game, really. And Pokemon is one of those franchises that could have done that. They hadn't done it that quickly before. This time they are. it just keeps going up. Already at 20 million copies sold for Scarlet and Violet, and that was like at the end of like last month they said that, so probably a lot more by now. All right, let's move along. Nintendo confirms it won't be at E3 2023. This comes from Rachel Kaiser at GamesBeat. Nintendo today confirmed reports that it will not take part in this year's upcoming Electronic Entertainment Expo. The company revealed that the show didn't fit into its event plans, and it will not have a presence on the show floor. The company said in a statement, "We approach our involvement in any event on a case-by-case basis, and we are always considering various ways to engage with our fans. Since this year's E3 show didn't fit into our plans, we have made the decision to not participate. However, we have been and continue to be a strong supporter of the ESA and E3." What's that sound like to you, Tom?
It sounds like double speak. It sounds like a company that doesn't want to, these companies, when they decide to participate or not participate in something, they never outright say like E3 is a dated model and doesn't fit with the new world order of how we handle game announcements. They'll say something like, yeah, it just doesn't fit in with what we've got lined up. So it just sounds to me like they are leaving room for, maybe next year or whatever. I think everyone is just waiting to see what E3 looks like this year. I think there was initially a lot of excitement, might be the wrong word, around ReedPop acquiring them, but I think that like people thought, well, if anyone's going to do it well, it would be ReedPop, because they are the name in the game when it comes to conventions. Since then, we've had some news. IGN had that big scoop, and just like general sentiment, I'm sure that you have people in your circles who have kind of talked about it. I definitely have people in mind who are talking about it, who are like, people are very skeptical about what this is going to look like. And granted, it's going to be ReedPop's first year doing it. I'm sure that there will be a lot of growing pains in that transition. I will say that the way in which they've decided on the format of like, I went to E3 first time 2017. And that was really like the first year they began opening it up to the public. And then like subsequently every year it became more and more like more public people, coming to attend. And, it made everything really annoying for covering it. And, they have said, we are going to address that. We are going to have it be, I think, more akin to what I've never been to Gamescom, but from what I hear about Gamescom, it's more like there are segmented areas for the press. Press gets like a bonus day or something, right? And then so it seems like that is the route they're going with, where they are trying to have their cake and eat it too, and hopefully make it work. But yeah, I think that the world has kind of moved on in many ways from an E3. I'm sure Nintendo will have a direct around this time. You've talked about PlayStation having
before E3
a showcase, like right before. So yeah, I don't know if they'd ever come back, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think these companies have found ways. They don't need E3 stage to make themselves like be able to capture news throughout a day or throughout a week even. So they're totally fine, and it's probably them being a little frustrated, I think, with ReedPop's slow start getting E3 organized. That's been the word on the street, is that ReedPop's kind of dragging their feet a little bit, at least earlier in the year. They were. And so a lot of questions that would have in the past already been answered would have had answers, they didn't have answers. That's one of the reasons, I think, why Yves Guillemot in his address to investors when he was asked about E3 was like, if it does happen, I think that was him voicing some frustration about not having all the questions answered by ReedPop. Now, the companies I've heard that are going to participate, just a handful of names, Capcom, Embracer, Konami, Namco.
Right, there's the MGS remake rumor.
Right,
we actually reported
and I've heard that
GameSpot,
for a long time that Konami's going to be there.
GameSpot News and GameSpot YouTube. We reported on that last week. Do you have any additional info? Because that to me sounds like if you're announcing like a new big Castlevania game and a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, that sounds like, well, that could be the biggest announcement.
It could be. I mean, they'll also be there with Square and Ubisoft though. So it's like, so it's let's see, Konami, Namco, Square, Capcom, Ubisoft, Embracer, Sega. Like, those are the companies. I think, yes, you're right. If Metal Gear Solid stuff gets announced, Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, and it looks big and expensive, and they have Castlevania, yeah, that could be pretty big. But, Capcom and Square, they have their known quantities. That's why, like, those typically be like, oh, they could match that. But they have a lot of games announced they need to get out. We will.
You think we say the new Tomb Raider news at E3?
It's probably too early, right? It's probably too early because Amazon just made that deal. God, when do we even hear about that?
Well, the Amazon deal we heard recently, but I feel like it was announced that Crystal Dynamics was working on a new Tomb Raider.
Even that there was like a year ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was like early last year, I think. I'm just curious because I'm like trying to think of like what could be the biggest announcement coming out of E3.
Right.
That being said, though, as like for general audiences, I don't think things are going to feel all that different. Because for people who are engaging with the content exclusively online, because Xbox is going to have a showcase, right? PlayStation, as you mentioned, very likely to also have a thing. Nintendo, I assume, will have a direct in the vicinity. It might not be as tightly packed around like a 4-7 day window, but I would imagine over 2-3 weeks, you're going to have the equivalent of what would have come out of a regular E3. I think the only thing that's really going to change is for people who are on the ground floor. And, you've been to E3, I assume you've been to E3 before.
Yes, a bunch of them now.
The biggest E3 is more about those like second tier companies, like outside of the big three for the most part. I actually don't think that, depending on how they run the show, I think that on-floor experience is going to be largely, it just sounds nuts that PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo are not going to be at E3. I actually think that in reality, it's not going to be as drastic
I agree.
A feeling as that sounds.
Yes, it sounds really bad on paper. I bet in reality, it's going to be like, oh, this has been what E3 has been for a while now. Microsoft, while a part of E3 and your E3 badge got you into their thing across the street, they were across the street. And Nintendo, they were doing their Treehouse Live at the last one. And I know that they had, so they did have some stuff on the floor. It was Pokemon related, right? I can never remember. But they had Pokemon stuff and they had the Treehouse Live, and then they had their meetings in the back room. And that was the real reason they were there. And I think all these companies will still be having their meetings. Microsoft, Nintendo, and PlayStation will have people at E3 taking meetings, but so that
there won't be any floor presence,
right? There won't be a floor presence, right? And so they'll be still doing the business work that needs to be done, that can get done in an E3 that hasn't happened in several years now. And then there's the question of Keighley, just Summer Game Fest. What is that going to look like the week before? Right? I can never. Has he announced the dates?
I think he has announced the dates. To me, didn't even ReedPop come out and say that they were having conversations with Jeff? Yeah. Trying to like plan.
Right. Yes. I don't think he has any interest in working with them, though. I think.
No. Yeah. But he probably has an interest in making sure that there isn't crossover.
Sure.
That there isn't like that the two events. It is in both parties' interest that those two events work in tandem, rather than like, we are not paying any attention to what they are doing. Like, I think you need to know. Honestly, I feel that the way that it's going to work out is I still think that, it's incredible what Jeff has built over the last few years. Yeah. But I still think that like E3 as an event holds a cache that Summer Game Fest doesn't quite have yet. I think that it would be, what would make the most sense is you have Summer Game Fest. It's the kickoff, right? Yep. As he's already kind of marketed it. You have that. You have the play days, and that's almost like a little bit of an appetizer, which it may be like, that sounds like underserving to what Jeff has built, I think, but a little bit of like I think for the on the ground experience that the media and press is going to have, based especially on what we saw last year with how he handled it, a more intimate experience that is going to be kind of catered to them. And then it's like, now let's get into the mess. Let's get into E3 where there's public involved and it's in a giant convention center rather than like this showroom that we've booked. So I think it will act more as a little bit of an appetizer.
I think that's right.
Aperitif to the buffet.
Yeah, and I think that's always a trouble for Keighley, because for him it needs to be a big thing that gets a lot of eyeballs and justifies itself. So because he's advertiser sponsored, it's not the same thing as an E3, which is like, oh, so we're gonna get some money from these publishers. The ESA, I guess maybe that's changed now with Repop, but still, it's Keighley has different incentives, and so his shows can feel a little bit like, oh man, they're stuffing a lot of ads in here, and this, where are the big announcements, and they don't come because companies weren't ready. And then what is he going to do? Just manufacture stuff? He can't do that.
Yeah, it's just a little bit on that, and I think that people are always like all over the place on how they feel with Jeff's presentation, and it just is important to realize, like, the reason it exists, the reason it can exist, is simply because, like, it is more of an advertising opportunity versus like we are a company or an organization that is putting out news about our product.
Yep.
And so there are so many more spinning plates and whims that need to be catered to, that I think it is impressive how what he is able to do whilst having so many constraints and rules around how the pace of the show needs to go. This ad needs to go here. Someone is paid for this slot. It has to fit in here. So I think that I totally understand where people are coming from, where they feel like those shows are inconsistent. That being said, I still think it's incredibly impressive considering what it actually is versus the other shows that people might be comparing it to.
Yeah, the idea that there are any good Keighley shows is like, that must have been really hard to put together ever, and he's had a series of them. So yes, well done. Metroid Prime Remastered is selling out, going for $100+ on eBay. This comes from Zach Swisen on Kotaku. Earlier this month, Metroid Prime Remastered was announced and released digitally on Nintendo Switch. It's a perfect example of how to remaster an old game. However, it wasn't available physically until yesterday, February 22nd. And well, it's still kind of not available physically even now, as people are reporting that stores are selling out of copies of Metroid Prime Remastered almost instantly. IGN spotted that stores like Amazon reported on February 22nd that their copies were suddenly delayed until March or even April. That's me. Mine was delayed till March. I ordered it right away, delayed till March. Online and physical stores like Target and Best Buy have also quickly sold out of copies. Looking online, most stores didn't have copies of Metroid Prime Remastered in stock to pick up. And even Wario64, the internet's favorite video game deal finder, can't seem to help people get their hands on the game. Over on Reddit, people are sharing stories of just how hard it is to find a copy of Prime anywhere. People have begun looking hey, can we find any sort of evidence of this game anywhere? And for the most part, people are like, no, coming up short. It's just on eBay, and on eBay, it's not $40. It's $70 to $90 to upwards of $100. Why do they do this to my Samus? Why do they not believe in her and they just print 25 copies of this game, and then it's going to be like, we're going to get to the NPD next month and it's not going to chart because they didn't print enough copies. It's like such a good game. People are loving it. It's doing so well. And people and the physical copies are just going to be so rare. I can't wait for Amazon to drop mine off so I can go put it in a sealed envelope and never open it again, and kind of keep it as a collector's item. Yeah. But other than it seems like most people who want it physically are either going to be out of luck or have to wait for a reprint.
My in this vein, my retirement plan is I bought 3 copies of physical copies of Mario 3D All Stars.
Yep. I think you could still find those on store shelves.
Yeah. So I'm in that vein when it comes, and I was like, maybe I'll pick up a Metroid Prime Remaster just to have it physically, but I already own it digitally. Same. Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine it has to just be like an underprinting, because you can't. Yeah. Surely, it isn't like an over demand issue with this. I mean, as you mentioned, it's here. It seems that you might be able to, if you can make it to New York City, if you really want a copy and you live in New York City, the Nintendo store might have some in stock. Yeah,
they're selling one copy per customer, right?
One copy a customer, which is usually how it works there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's God, Nintendo, man, they just cut themselves off at the knees. And maybe it is like a thing where it's just like they'll, I talk about it in I think on GameSpot News as well. Metroid not a massive selling franchise.
Nope.
I think that the effect and love that people have for it, how important it is to gaming, vastly outweighs its actual like monetary, like how much it's made Nintendo. I think the best selling Dread, I think has been the best selling Metroid game.
I think it is now, yeah.
And it topped at 3 million, which is good for, a lot of games, but for Nintendo, when you talk about its biggest series, Nintendo is able to pull Zelda out of that. I think before Breath of the Wild, Twilight Princess was its best selling at like 8 million, and now Breath of the Wild has sold Pokemon numbers.
Yeah, it's approaching 30 million.
And you got to imagine that Tears of the Kingdom is going to follow suit there. So I just think they probably looked at it as like, it's already available digitally. We will print. I bet you this issue in a couple of months will be resolved, and it's not going to be like a long term, like, oh my God, Metroid Prime Remastered a year later, we still can't find it. I just think they initially were playing it very close to the chest.
I mean, I hope that they do print more. I mean, that seems like
I think they will.
I think they probably will. But it does feel like this game was a little bit of an afterthought. $40, a small print run, and now we're moving on. We gave Metroid Prime Remastered its due, and now it's time to move on. Maybe that's not exactly how it'll go down, but it's just like it felt like, okay, if they were gonna, they don't do this for any of their other remasters or the games they bring back, discount it or discount it like that drastically to $40 and then release it physically a couple weeks later. So it's like, man, maybe this is a case where it will be treated a little bit less or get a little bit less love on the back end, and we won't actually get another printing. But I hope we do. Now,
I know last year when you made a huge fool of yourself,
of course, just embarrassed myself permanently.
Remastered was going to be announced last fall.
Yes.
No, but along with that, you were saying that 2 and 3 would get some kind of re-release. It wouldn't be an actual like remaster like Prime,
not a big boy remaster, right? Yeah.
Any news on that? What are your thoughts on 2 and 3 getting put? You got to imagine they at least got to like put them out available for before 4.
Yeah,
eventually drops.
I think it's the kind of thing where because they delayed this a little bit, maybe that shifts their timelines, and so maybe they do actually pull the plug on putting out 2 and 3. I don't know. That's not what I've heard. What I've heard is 2 and 3 are basically ready to go. They are not the big boy remasters. They will just be HD up-reses, and they'll get some love on the controls and stuff like that. And I would imagine with this game selling so well, maybe they're like, okay, we definitely should do that. But we'll see. It's Nintendo. Obviously, they could change their mind at the last second, like they have multiple times, and made me cut my hair. So I'm not going to guarantee it, but what I've last heard is wager a beard and eyebrows. Yeah, let's go. Yeah. I think we'll probably. I think it's going to happen. They said that's what I've last heard. So I think it's probably still going to happen. I think then we get Metroid Prime 4. Not super quickly after that, but relatively, pretty quickly after that in the next year or so. So
it would be good if they released, you got Metroid Prime Remastered now, release 2 and 3 at like a regular keep the momentum going by having them like release spaced out. I mean, in an ideal world, spaced out nicely. So it's like maybe every 9 months we're getting like 2, and then 9 months after that 3, and then it's 4.
Yep.
That would be nice.
I don't know.
Fantastic. I have no idea what the release schedule is. I have no idea when Metroid Prime 4 is coming out, but I would like to have whatever that timeline is between now and then, like have those games like drop periodically.
I would like that. Starfield Showcase is coming soon, ? This comes from VGC's Andy Robinson on Twitter, where he tweeted, I hear the announcement for the Starfield Showcase is imminent, and then the eyes emoji, and then he clarified, as in soon. I will say that I've heard the showcase is imminent repeatedly for several weeks now. So don't trust me on this. I'll trust Andy. That sounds right, though. We just cannot be waiting much longer for this game that is supposed to still come out in the first half of this year. They have not announced any delay, so we still have to assume it's coming out by June. We should be hearing about this game soon, right?
Yeah, I mean, if it is coming out by June, I think based on the developer direct they did recently and how where they place dates for the projects that they did announce there, I think that there is a high likelihood, or maybe I'm just like 50-50, like it's a straight 50-50 shot this game gets released before June. But I will say, if it is an imminent thing, like if it is like in the next couple of weeks, we're going to get the showcase, I think that really speaks to, if it was slipping into April and May, I would definitely be more worried about that. But yeah, I don't know about Starfield. I'm very excited for the game.
Me too.
I, adore that studio and what they've made. Even at their lowest, I still think that it's one of the most creative studios creating games of that scale. So yeah, I'm super stoked for Starfield, and I hope we see more of it soon, and I hope it comes out in the first half, because I'm very excited to play it. But if it gets delayed, it gets delayed. It just is what it is. But yeah, you don't have any kind of. I mean, what are your thoughts on where are you? If you had to bet a bid, what are you betting your bid on?
I think I'm with you where it's like it's 50-50, like 51-49 that it comes out by June. I think it's more likely than not coming out before June, but I'm not going to be surprised when and if it does get delayed. So
yeah,
we'll see.
And speaking to someone just dropped Adon Standalone in the Twitch chat says there's no reason to release Starfield before it's ready. I think if they don't feel like it's ready, they will have no problem delaying it. I just don't know if they know if it's. I don't know what they know about the project yet. But yeah, they can't. This is, Xbox has had so many false starts, stumbles. If it wasn't for the fact that they aggressively have made Xbox Game Pass and everything to kind of do with that, the streaming, all of that, such a incredible, like, the future of how gaming is going to happen. It would be a very dire situation for Xbox, and I think that hopefully after the lesson of Halo, they realize, like, all right, the next big one needs to be like out of the gate. We really need to knock it out of the park, guys. So yeah, if it's not ready, I don't think we will find a situation where Xbox puts it out before that time. But
yes,
at the end of the day, there's still quarters to there's sales targets to meet. That's why Halo still came out before it was not ready content wise.
Yeah,
I'm just hoping.
Yep, me too. I think we'll see here pretty soon. I think this showcase is probably going to get announced here in the next couple of days, I think, and then we'll see. So whether that's for a show later this week or next week, I don't know, but we'll see.
You think it could be that soon? Like, when you say soon, you mean like this week, next week?
Yes, I think this week, next week for this showcase. Yeah,
Daddy.
We'll see. I hope this is the one that blows me away, because I'm ready to get my hopes up for this game, even though I know it's a terrible thing.
Ready. I got the trimmers ready for you.
Perfect. Fallout New Vegas Remastered would be awesome, says Obsidian. This comes from Rion Bevan by way of an interview with Lex Luddy over at The Gamer. Obsidian game director Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky agree that Fallout New Vegas Remastered would be, quote, awesome, and are still interested in their hugely popular 2011 RPG. This comes as Obsidian unveils the Outer Worlds Spacer's Choice Edition, indicating that it would love to give New Vegas the same next-gen treatment. Speaking to The Gamer, Kaine says that he'd love to see a graphical remaster of New Vegas, something that fellow game director Boyarsky wholeheartedly agrees with. This came in response to the Outer Worlds production director, Eric DeMille, explaining that the graphics are never Obsidian's priority, but still sees the potential in giving New Vegas a current-gen facelift. Obsidian game directors, Tim Gray, they're saying the same thing. This is something that I think that is entirely possible. It's the kind of thing that developers really like, because most of the work, or most of like the hard design work, is done. You could just go in there and fix all the things that bother you about a game. So I wouldn't be surprised if this happens, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, there are too many. It seems like such a no-brainer, considering how few strings you've got to, there's very little red tape now, because Xbox owns it all. So I think it actually certainly could happen. You got to imagine again, like Xbox is, it would be such a win, and God knows Xbox kind of needs that right now. And so, yeah, I think that a new Vegas remaster or a remake or whatever is way more likely, well, not way more likely, but more likely to happen than not.
Yes, and this is right on another story we'll get to in a second. Yeah, there's a whole feature on this. Go read Lex's work over there. It's on the Gamer, so check that out, everybody. Dragon Age writer suggests a remaster of Origins with graphics to top Inquisition. This comes from Matthew Scomer at DualShockers. The lead writer for BioWare's epic fantasy RPG Dragon Age seems to be in support of publisher Electronic Arts to order a remaster or remake of the first game in the series, Dragon Age Origins. David Gator, who has served as lead writer on every main entry in the series, took to Twitter to recently to suggest that Origins may be due for a current gen makeover on PlayStation 5, something EA is already doing with other series like Dead Space. The tweet reads like, "Can you imagine it with a brand new PS5 era bells and whistles?" That's the kind of thing, Tom, that I think is also possible, but a little bit less likely than New Vegas, just based on what I've heard about the thing that encouraged them to do Mass Effect trilogy was that all those games were in Unreal, so it was easy. If we make improvements in one engine or for one game, we can like apply those forward. Dragon Age, each game is done. Many of the games are done in different engines. They don't have one contiguous story that leads from one, like having you take characters from one to the other. So they wouldn't do the entire trilogy, which it's, and, it barely is even like a trilogy. It's just like different stories in the Dragon Age universe. So like they haven't started work on a Dragon Age remaster, but Dragon Age Origins, I mean, maybe that's the right one to just go back and just do that one and make that work. I mean, I like the idea. It sounds like a good idea, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one. That's the one, right? That people unanimously love. It's funny how people have so much reverence for that trilogy and are so excited about Dreadwolf, but really Dragon Age Origins is the one that people unanimously love. Both 2 and Inquisition are very divisive games, I feel. I actually, Inquisition was my first one and I adored it. Maybe it's because I didn't know what I didn't have. So I think that, again, an Origins remaster, especially, it's a similar situation with Xbox, maybe even a bit more dire because EA is even more, I feel like, all over the place with where it stands in the industry right now with its content. But so I think Dragon Age Origins, if they can make it work, a remaster is a no-brainer, especially after the success of Dead Space Remake. I don't know if we see something on that level, but you got to, I could see it happening.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of thing where it just takes them like looking at the opportunity cost and be like, okay, will this pay off and not take away or not distract from some other bigger thing we could be doing? And I think I think the tide is moving in the direction of this makes sense and we should do it. Especially because video games are more and more expensive to make than ever. And what can you do when you have a team that is massive and working on one game in one way, and not everyone is working at like 100% on that game because maybe their job is done right now? Can we move something else into that department, like a remaster or a remake, and have them work on that and instead to keep them busy? I think that is definitely something that a lot of studios are looking at doing. Naughty Dog did this recently. I think Dragon Age Origins would be ideal for that, although it probably would need a significant amount of work to make it feel like a modern $60, $70 game. But I think it's the right one to pull that off with, especially after Dead Space.
Yeah, I think ultimately it would go more in the direction of a Mass Effect remaster versus of the Dead Space remake. But hopefully, whatever it is a game that, feels contemporary. Feels like it isn't. Because even with Dead Space remake, I got to say, like, it looks like a modern game. In many ways, it feels like a modern game. There's still a lot of it that feels very much rooted in that era, and that's just, you're not going to escape that. Hopefully Dragon Age avoids that as much as possible, I think. We'll see if it's even a game.
Yeah, we'll see if it even happens. Yeah. Last story here. Phil Spencer says Xbox will exist even if the Activision Blizzard deal is blocked. This comes from Andy Robinson of VGC. Microsoft's head of gaming has said its proposed $69 billion Activision Blizzard acquisition is not a linchpin for the future of Xbox, and that the gaming arm will continue to exist even if the deal is blocked by regulators. Phil Spencer was in the UK this week for talks with the Competition and Markets Authority following a European Commission hearing in which it defended the proposed deal amid concerns it could harm competition, particularly if it were to make games like Call of Duty exclusive to its platform. Basically, though, in this, so he talked to a bunch of people. He talked to the Times, and he said, this is an important acquisition for us, but it's not some linchpin to the long term. Xbox will exist if this deal doesn't go through. I think most of us assume that, but it is, I guess, interesting to just hear him flat out say, we're not looking at this as make or break or anything like that. Because the way that it's been treated, the way it's been centralized to every story about the future of Xbox, it can feel that way sometimes, right?
Yeah. I mean, Phil Spencer is the absolute king of playing both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
You will not find someone in the industry on that level, like in his position, who is as good at always having the right answer for the moment whilst also not contradicting things he has said in the past. It is 100% the reason he is the head of Xbox. And I mean, among other talents, I'm sure. But this, on the public-facing side, is one of them. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It has been made to feel in previous statements that Xbox is so fucked without this Activision deal. But at the same time, Phil, especially because, again, I think the last time we talked about this goddamn deal, I still think the deal is going to happen, but it is definitely more in jeopardy than I think anyone was expecting, including Xbox. So Phil Spencer needs to make sure that like investors on the Microsoft side need to know, like, hey, even if this deal doesn't go through, like, we're going to be fine. And of course they're going to be fine, because it was never a make or break moment. The company, in my opinion, that has the most to lose from this deal not going through is Activision, because I don't know if they have a plan for what the future of that company looks like. Not only the games it's putting out, leadership, everything there. The Microsoft deal made a lot of those things kind of, I think, easier to like transition away from. I don't know. I really don't know what Activision's future looks like without Xbox. So that'll be interesting if that is the way that it goes. But yeah, I think that, if this is, again, like everything that Phil ever says, at the end of the day, this is a message to shareholders that Xbox will be fine, and of course it'll be fine.
It probably to internal stakeholders at Microsoft itself, right? Where it's like,
as well.
I'm gonna have to keep like selling my ideas inside Microsoft, and this one didn't work out. It was a big play. We put a lot of effort into making this happen. Don't worry, we have backup plans if this doesn't work out. It sounds a little bit like that as well. Okay, let's see. I had a poll from Friday. Let's bring that up. Rate the state of play. You give it an A, B, C, or D, or lower. 45.8% came in with a D or lower, 40.5% C, 11.8% said B, and 2% said A. I think I'm in that C range. I kind of knew what to expect here. Suicide Squad didn't do it many favors. I don't know. I'm like out there looking for the person who's super stoked for Suicide Squad based on what they're seeing. Is that you, Tom? Are you the Suicide Squad fan? Absolutely
not. My tweet, and you can find me everywhere, Great Britom, but my tweet that I put out was, hey, remember that Avengers game that failed disastrously? We're making that, but with less popular characters. Yeah. And that is like, it's so funny, because going into this, people are like, well, they've said it's a live service game before. I'm like, yeah, but we don't know what that means for this game. But it is so one-to-one in many respects from what they were talking about. Battle passes for each of the characters with cosmetics, future characters being upgraded. This is going to be a loot grind game about slightly increasing each of the characters' like gear score. That is Avengers, but the only popular character really is Harley Quinn. And they've written themselves into a corner by making it exclusively like we are making the game where you play as the villains. So they don't have a lot of wiggle room for the future. I think that I feel bad. You got to imagine this is not the game Rocksteady planned to make. There has to be outside influence. I would love to ask them, like, if Warner Brothers had no say in the products that you make, would this be the game that you would make? And I got to imagine that the answer would be no. I think this game is the writing is on the wall for it. The writing was on the wall for Avengers. People were saying this game is not going to succeed, and it didn't. And it was based around the most popular franchise on the planet at the time. So,
yep,
I wish them luck, but I don't think it's going to work out for them.
Yeah, and I know that developers, there's a lot of buy-in on ideas at development studios when it's like, okay, this is the kind of game we want as a publisher. And then studios, they start, throwing out ideas like what can fit into that. Well, what if we did this? And what if we use these characters? And we kind of made it, we'll make it like Destiny. And then like they start taking ownership of that. So I think if you asked the people that made Suicide Squad today, is this the game you want to make? I guarantee they would say yes. If you went back to that moment where they're the fork in the road, I think it would be like, clearly no. If you showed them the game that they showed at that state of play, and you told them the context of what people feel about those games today and what happened with Avengers, with all that hindsight in that context, there's no way I think that this is the game that they would have ended up making. So, yeah.
I mean, I think wish them luck. I think, but yeah, it's just like even just like the gameplay loop, like it just looks so. They kept being like, Harley Quinn is the most acrobatic of the three. And I'm like, really? Because all of them are like jumping around and doing flips everywhere. Like none of the characters, we are so close to this game. And I still feel like this deep dive that they did was not deep enough to convince me like the special Rocksteady sauce is being brought to this title.
Yeah. Do you know what game it looks like the most? Guess what game I'm thinking of that it looks like the most.
I just can't get Avengers out of my head.
Anthem. It looks like Anthem.
Yes,
with the jetpacks flying around and the move. It's Anthem. It is.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I saw comparisons to that, and even still, I've put Anthem so far behind me in my rearview mirror that I couldn't even bring it up. But yeah, I mean, Anthem and Avengers, not two games that you want people to be associating with your game. I feel bad. But
we're gonna see. And maybe it's gonna be so much fun when people are playing together.
Maybe we'll look like idiots.
But
maybe this is the game that pulls it off. But
boy, it looks real dour or real dire. Excuse me. When I'm like looking at those Captain Boomerang screens with all those numbers on it, I'm just like, please God, no. A third-person shooter starring Captain Boomerang. What are you talking about? All right, new poll: who is more popular, Captain America or Harley Quinn? And then I wrote Game Mess Mornings? ? Guys, I'm sick. Give me a break here. You can vote for that right now, Captain America or Harley Quinn. We will get back to that on Wednesday with our next Game Mess Mornings. Tomorrow, it is Giant Bombcast. Make sure you tune in for that. Can't wait to get back and talk with Jan about all the things happening in video games. Keep an eye on that. That'll be in, right here where you're watching or in your feeds. We're going to go into a meeting here in a second, figure out what we're going to do for the rest of this week. We got some quick looks definitely happening. We're going to try to get that Atomic Heart quick look re-recorded after we lost the video. The quality was a little bit, but we're going to redo that. I got a few more things coming. Keep an eye on all that stuff. Probably a new demo derby might happen here pretty soon. So look out for all of that. In the meantime, though, hey, Tom, where can people find you? What do you have going on this week?
Yeah. So you can find me personally, Great Britom, everywhere. On every platform, pretty much. I run GameSpot's TikTok. As I mentioned, I am in the midst of building this Lego Rivendell. So there's going to be fun videos on the TikTok. So go make sure to follow GameSpot's TikTok there. But yeah, I'm Great Britom everywhere else.
And Jen just reminded me, right after this, we're going to be streaming the premiere of Play It Forward right here. So if you're watching, just stick around. We're going to do Play It Forward. It's our new series where we're playing Alpha Protocol. And then one person plays and then passes to the next person, then passes to the next person. Everyone has to deal with whatever decisions the first person who played made. And in that case, it's Dan Reichert. So I'm assuming it's going to be heavy on the soul patch. I'm assuming that he would just make those decisions. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tom, thank you so much for taking your time with me today to talk about video games. I really appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.